Since January, huh? What's that? Sam's Club. 307, okay. But you use a quarter of a tank to get there, but that's okay. Yeah. So I'm just saying, no matter how you cut the cheese, fuel costs for every mile you drive, and I hope you're not a tractor-trailer driver for a living, okay? But every mile you drive is up 30%. And that's worse than the Carter administration, because I lived through the Carter administration as a businessman, and it was disastrous. We were talking 18 and 20% a year for 6 years, okay? So we cannot sustain 30% inflation rate for very long. We'll all be broke. Your 401ks ain't earning that, and then you're paying tax on that. 201k, I don't care, IRAs, it doesn't matter. Nobody's averaging 30% a year, but after tax. Okay, nobody. And who it really hurts is the elderly on fixed incomes, because they can earn nothing on their CDs, earning nothing, and then paying tax on nothing. Okay, so anyhow, we are living in a time that I've never seen in my lifetime, and I believe it's right here because of Satan's ultimate deceptions, and he's unveiled them to me, and I'm unveiling them to everybody. Listen to me, all right? Because I now know how he's going to bring the world together to worship him as God. And it has nothing to do with theology. He doesn't care about our theology. He could care less about it. He's got the issue, and it's man's foolishness. 1 Corinthians tells me that man's wisdom is foolishness to God, and God's foolishness is wisdom to man. Okay? So that in Isaiah 55 says that his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. So we got to think like God thinks. And the way I do that is out of the Bible. It's the only place you're going to know how God thinks is go to the Bible. Otherwise, you're never going to have it. Okay? The ultimate deceptions unveiled are his Antichrist is coming soon. That's what it tells me. The more that we get this squeeze going on in the world over this global climate thing, and our stupid Washington is pouring more billions and billions of dollars into saving the planet, not just what goes on here in America. You know, I showed you last week, America's basically already carbon zero. The whole northern hemisphere. I'm not the U.S. The Americans are green already. Okay, so all this money they're raising for green stuff. Don't kid yourself. We're already green. Based on the way they calculate zero emissions, we're already green. Okay? You notice that China and Russia and India haven't joined it at all. They're the three major problems more than anything, if there's even a problem. I don't believe any of the science, to be honest with you, to tell you the truth. You know, my issue with a science background, the Earth is not a closed system. So there's no way to determine really what's going on with climate change. Climate change, you know, it used to be the next ice age was coming. That was about 40 years ago, okay? And then they went to global warming, and then now, because of some cooling that's gone on, it's climate change. Well, I mean, what does that mean? That's a term that has no definition. We just all got to jump on board to save the planet because the climate's changing. And now we got king tides going on right now. Let me tell you something. I'm a second-generation native from here. I used to take, during the king tides, we didn't call them that, okay? There was a place over in Palm Beach, I think it's Jungle Road, that had a big culvert that was out in the intercoastal, and at night, and the wave would come in, it would blow like almost like a whale, if you heard a whale come up and blow, right? And I used to take girls over there and park. It was so cool to listen to it blow, and they didn't know what it was. They think it's ghosts or something, you know. And so and the road flooded all the time. Every you know, this time of year, for some reason, the tides are just high, and it causes floods. Okay, yeah, tell me about it. We had global warming 70 years ago, 65 years ago, when I used to take girlfriends over there. Okay, Yeah, I dated myself. The bottom line is, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 talks about the wicked one being revealed. That's the Antichrist. We're going to get more into that when we get to Revelation 13. Okay? Now, I told you last week we're going to get into Revelation 7 tonight. Right at the end. I'm just baiting you. I baited you. Okay? Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, which we talked about the rapture, okay, and the revealing of the Antichrist, except there come a falling away first, that the man of sin might be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so he, as God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. And that is a precursor that Paul wrote to the church at Thessalonica about what John wrote about later on in Revelation chapters 9 through 16. Okay? But this is a little precursor when the Antichrist sits on the throne in Jerusalem and rules and reigns for 3.5 years. Okay? We'll talk more about that down the road. For the mystery of iniquity, and this is sort of the terminology I've been using since I started this study back a year ago, the mystery, this was not revealed in the Old Testament. There's a lot of mysteries in the New Testament where God revealed new stuff that wasn't in the Old Testament. This is one of them. The future of the planet is revealed in the New Testament, not the Old Testament. There's some glimpses in the Old Testament, but it's explained in the New Testament. With this text, with Revelation text, several others that 1st and 2nd Peter, particularly 2nd Peter has some stuff, but this was revealed to the apostles in the New Testament primarily. Okay? It's called the mystery of iniquity, and it's already at work. We started back in the garden, remember, with the falling away. When Satan deceived Adam and Eve, the mystery started. That set the stage for Revelation. The theme of the book of Revelation is called the culmination. This is the finish. It's the last chapter. Okay? And to understand anything in Revelation, you've got to have some knowledge of the rest of the Bible, or you'll never understand Revelation. You'll never get it. It's already at work. Only he who now lets, which is, I believe, the Holy Spirit, until he is taken out of the way, and I believe that's with the rapture, and then shall that wicked one be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. And that's a reference to Armageddon. So it's all here in a couple verses. That's Revelation 16 and 18 is Armageddon, when the blood flows to the horses' bridles. Okay? So it's all right here in a couple verses. Paul is alluding to it here. We'll talk more about that in Revelation about this time next year probably. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and that's where we are today. The garbage that is coming out of Glasgow, the garbage that's being taught at every educational level in Western culture throughout Europe and America and the Americas and Australia and everywhere else, with evolution and big history and all this stuff that we're going to look at in a minute, we've been talking about it for weeks, is all pure satanic. I was taught it when I was young, and it turned me into an agnostic. Okay? 22, I got saved from agnosticism and got in the Bible instead. But I brought up Lee Strobel a couple weeks ago. He was one my age. Same thing happened to him, only he ended up an atheist. Okay? So this big evolution and big history and all that you've been taught hundreds of millions and billions of years, and we've evolved from primordial slime and Big Bang and all this stuff, is nothing but lies of Satan. It's not science. No proof in any of it. Nobody was there 10,000 years ago when stuff was going on. Nobody's there 5,000 years ago when stuff was going on, unless it's written in the Bible. Okay? Just that simple. The minute that it cannot be observed and cannot be duplicated, it's no longer science, it's philosophy. Simple as that. The whole discipline of archaeology was established to discredit the Bible, and it's done the exact opposite. So you gotta be honest with yourself and look at the scriptures. We talked about 3 weeks. We talked about big history. It's the destruction of our planet by mankind. That's the summary of that entire education program. Humans have come on the scene about 200 million years ago. In the last 400 years, we're destroying the planet. Something's got to be done. And that's the precursor for saving the planet. Is that you and I are the problem. That's why a true humanist will say the only way to save the planet is to destroy anywhere from 30 to 50% of the Earth's population. It's the only way you can save the planet. And a true humanist will say that. And they believe that. Okay? Now I'm going to give you some hypocrisy tonight about that issue. Okay? I heard it, Ted Turner back in 1990 said it when he was Humanist of the Year. A third of the world's population need to be exterminated. It's the only way to save the planet. That's going to happen at one point, a quarter, and another third. So trust me, as I'm teaching this stuff, listen, global warming is coming. Okay? We're going to get to it tonight. At one point in the Revelation, a fourth of the world's population was destroyed, and another portion, another third of the world's population destroyed. So these type of things are coming. It's not going to happen because of what's going over in Washington, in Glasgow, or Washington for that matter. Okay? It's going to happen because it's in the Scriptures. And God's already got it foreordained that's going to happen. And it's in prophecy. And I've been teaching that stuff for 50 years. Been waiting for it to happen. All I know is I'm 50 years closer. But it's coming. The only issue is when. That's the only issue. Second thing, Big Bang evolution, the universe, galaxies, stars, solar systems, we were all over this stuff. Plants, life, humanity, mankind's abuse of the planet Earth. And he's talking, David Christian's talking about 13.7 billion years, and they're stretching out to 20 billion now. So as scientists keep finding more stuff out there in the galaxies and the universe, they're having to stretch out their time frame. When I was in 7th grade, it was 300 million years, because we didn't have Hubble yet. You've heard me say that before. Okay? So big history is a joke. Evolution is a joke. There's no science to it. Did you hear me? There's no science to it. It's philosophy. Anything to do with origins is philosophy. You can even say the Bible, my biblical worldview of origins is philosophy, but I believe it's God's philosophy. And I'll take his any day. Okay? And as most of you know, I'm pretty good at ripping the other one to shreds. I love it. I have fun with it. We spent 3 weeks now talking on climate change from the United Nations approach. And that's what's going on in Glasgow right now. It's been going on since the 22nd, I think, or something, last month. It's been going on for several weeks now, okay? And they're all congregating over there, all the humanists and all the environmental wackos and everything are over there. All the states of head of all over the country. I think it's 168 countries, 180-something countries represented over there. They're having a big hoopla about saving the planet. It's called COP26. Mankind must come together in a new global accord to save the planet. B3W, they're calling it. Build Back Better. When I first heard that from Joe Biden, I thought he was talking about here. He's not. That's a worldwide slogan by the UN he's using. We're going to be building back better by building back the jungles of Africa and South America, New Guinea, and all this stuff. We're going to be pouring our money all over this world to build back better. It doesn't really have a whole lot to do with this country. This new infrastructure bill, hundreds of billions of dollars going out of this country for this right here. Okay? Save Mother Earth. New Green Deal, zero carbon emissions. And I went all over that last week. That's a joke. The whole thing's a joke. Okay? We all got to stop breathing at least half the time. Remember last week? So we're going to get to zero carbon emissions based on their science. The average human being puts out 40 parts per million every time we exhale. They're wanting it down to 20. So how's that going to work? We got to hold our breath half the time. It's dumb. I mean, folks, when you get into it, you just all you can do is laugh at the stuff. It makes no sense whatsoever. Foolishness of man's wisdom is on display. You've been watching the news at all out of Glasgow?
I know Barack Obama's over there.
He's over there. I'm going to get to him in a minute. You can see his picture. Okay? We're going to get to him in a minute. Okay? He's been part of it. He was part of it when he was president. Okay? He got us all involved in it to start with. Okay? UN, I like unclimate change, to tell you the truth, because it had nothing to do with climate, but that's really the UN climate change conference, UK 2021, is going on right now. I think it wraps up next week. Glasgow, Scotland. There's a picture of it. 1st to the 12th of November, so I guess it started the 1st. It goes on to the 12th in Glasgow. Trouble is, they need to turn out all those lights because it's still daylight. So they're wasting electricity, and they're not saving the planet. So I got a problem with that picture right out front. Okay? They're over there saving the planet, and they're running lights in the middle of the daylight. That's like when we're here and we're have a water shortage, and we put water restrictions on, and people have a sprinkler system that's on an automatic timer, and they're sprinkling their yard in the middle of the rain. We call that a hypocrisy. Okay? Sorry, Vicki. I know you might have one, but I mentioned a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, I had a friend in church that accused me one time of that whole scene of breaking the law, because I had one rainbird on 5 acres of land on the day that wasn't supposed to be my water day. And I know he had a yard with all of his sprinklers going in the rain because I drove by it that day, or a couple days before that. Italian Prime Minister and Giuseppe Conte and UN Prime Minister Boris Johnson kick off COP26 in Glasgow on November 1st. And I made some quotes last week from Boris Johnson that were just totally stupid. I'm not sure the guy's elevator goes all the way to the top. He is just not, he's not a really brilliant man, okay? But he's heading this whole thing up in Glasgow because that's his nation over there, okay, in Scotland. There's he and Biden. When he wasn't sleeping, Biden, I guess, was at the head table. So, yeah, we're gonna talk in a few minutes about the number of jets. Okay, keep in mind he flew over on Air Force One, and go fly home on Air Force One. And I have no idea what that burns in CO2 carbons when it takes off and lands and flies, at 35,000 feet at 600 miles an hour from England to here. I have no idea what that's going to do to the. I'm sure that the temperature is going to rise at least 2 or 3% for that. That's just stupid. President Biden and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson attended the meeting Build Back Better, World B3W, as part of the World's Leaders Summit of COP26 on November 2nd, 2021. That happened this second day of the conference. Build Back Better conference. It's about the world. It's not about here. So don't think that they're talking about the money being spent here to build us back better. That's a political term to get their ideas to save the planet. There they are. Over 400 private jets caused a complete traffic jam for days over Glasgow. Planes having to circle for half an hour and an hour trying to find a place to land or time to land. Over 400 private jets. That has nothing to do with Air Force One or Boris Johnson's, of what was he flying? Boris Johnson flying an A321 from England because he flew from somewhere in Italy back to England to host the conference. And so he's flying a jet about the size of Air Force One. It doesn't count those. The average private jet emits 2 tons of CO2 for every hour in flight. Okay? 2 tons of CO2 emissions per flight hour for 400 jets.
Some of those people could have ridden a train.
They could have ridden trains. They could have all flown commercial. They could have all flown commercial. You're talking billionaires. You're talking the rich and famous here, folks.
Their emissions don't count.
So if they go down, they can find them in the trees. Yeah, their emissions don't count. That's right, because they're the rich and famous. That's the whole point. This is all about Satan's control of humanity. You've got to understand that. It has nothing to do with saving the planet.
But how can they be exempt?
Because they're rich and famous. Listen, folks, listen. You're looking to a guy, most of you know my background. I spent 2.5 years living in the cockpit with the rich and famous. They're above everybody because they can afford to do anything they want.
I don't see Jeff Bezos there.
They're all there. They're all there. You just haven't seen them. He's there. I heard he's there.
Well, I know that
They're all there. If they're into politics at all, they're there. If they're putting a dollar in one side or the other, they're there.
well, I know the Mac guy is
They're all there. Trust me, Bill Gates and Melinda Gates are there. A bunch of the Hollywood jet sets are there. I mean, you know, all the names that you see in the environmental movement, they're all there on their private jets, and they got the money to be there, and they're all putting their 2 cents in. They might not be on the stage where you see them, but they're all there. I've been looking at names, and there's a ton of them there. Okay, anybody you see in the press, they're there. Okay, if they're anybody, they want to be seen. They want to be part of this because they know that's where the world's headed. If you want to be popular, you got to sign up. You got to make the pledge. Remember, I showed you a couple of weeks ago about the pledges. You got to make a pledge. At some point, Satan's going to make us make a pledge to take his mark, huh?
That's made its way to Snapchat. There's a filter now for I've taken the pledge.
Yeah, it's all over the internet. It's all over the internet. Okay? And when we get to Laudato Si, there's a Laudato Si pledge. And also, I already showed you, you can become the historian, certified big history buff. You can be certified for that if you go through that, and I guess you could take a test or something. I don't know how they certify you, but you can become a big history buff. I mean, you can buy in all this stuff. It's going to become mandatory. You think the vaccines are a problem? What do they tell you? You got to take this pledge. Otherwise, they're going to take your bank account away. Remember in the Revelation in 13, you don't buy or sell unless you got the mark of the beast. Okay? What do you think the ramifications of that are? If you don't take the mark of the beast, which is going to send you to hell for sure, you don't buy or sell. That's what the Bible teaches. This is all forerunner to this stuff. I don't want to scare you, but that's what the Bible teaches, and we see it happening before our very eyes. We need to be excited because I think it's because the rapture's coming soon. Okay? That's my deal. Bring it on. Okay? I guess that's fun. Probably one of the few in America will say that kind of thing. But that's where I'm at with it. I mean, to me, the rapture's right around the corner. And I'm out of here. Thank God. Can we say hypocrites? Yeah. Here's some names. Arnold Schwarzenegger. What's he got to do with climate change? The Terminator. I will be back. Save the planet. Bill Gates, Ellie Goulding, Barack Obama, and many more are called celebs. They're all celebs. They're all rich and famous. flying all them jets around. You know, for every one of those jets, I know this from the sports fishing industry, okay? Every one of those jets has to have 2 pilots. And them guys are making probably $200,000-$300,000 a year apiece to fly that jet, wherever they're going. Those jets probably average somewhere between $25 to $50 million apiece. They're Gulfstreams, they're Lears. I fished Bob Fisher, who had BizJet, owned BizJet, back in the late 60s. A Lear back then was 10 to 15 million. In the 60s, 10 to 15 million. I ran a sports fishing boat for him. He was Fisher Body. Big bucks. Bought Rybovich Boatyard. Okay? And he'd have been flying one of them jets. He flew them all the time. He owned, I think, like 15 of them in his fleet of biz jets. He used to lease them out. That's what he did. One of the things he did. He had over 800 people employed between all of his different companies and stuff. Okay? Big time guy. He probably could have bought Bill Gates back then. There he is. A couple days ago, not enough progress on climate change.
Yeah, he was on the news.
He was on the news. Here's the scary part. Stay angry. Youth need to push leaders on climate change. Now, got one young guy right here. I don't know if he's sleeping or he's just praying about what I'm teaching. But I were one before I make this statement. I were one. That's why I ended up an agnostic. And Rush Limbaugh calls most kids from about 16 to 30 as skulls of mush. Okay? Now, I've learned over the years, after I got saved and got into teaching, and I spent a lot of time teaching youth and young people, young adults, I learned, okay, it's not really smart when you're a 18-year-old or 20-year-old and you really have an important decision to make, that you go to other 18-year-old and 20-year-olds to make that decision. Okay? You need to go talk to somebody that's been there, done that. Bought the T-shirt. Okay? I thank God that I learned over the years the value of older men in my life. And I had a lot of them have taught me over the years. And the Bible says that older men are to teach the younger men, and older women teach the younger women. Okay? Brock shouldn't be recommending all the kids get involved to save the planet. That's dumb. It is. It is. And we've been doing it through pre-K, through doctorate degrees in our education system. I had it clear back, again, not as much the save the planet garbage, but I had all the evolutionary garbage starting in 7th grade at Coniston Junior High School here. That's when I fell in love with science. Turned me an agnostic by the time I was 22 years old. So I've been there. And now young people today want a cause. There's no bigger cause than save the planet. Okay? And it's Satan's lie. Sell them the Bible, Brock. You profess to be a Christian. What's this garbage about? He sat under Reverend White for years. That was his problem. Okay? Sat under the wrong preacher. Or sat under Tony Evans or somebody who's got some brains. Okay? But he's recommending the kids get angry. Burn the place down. Got to save the planet. Of course, that causes carbon emissions, but at least we could turn it back to the jungle if we burn it all down, right? Bulldoze New York City, turn it back to the swamps. We can turn it into a mangrove swamp. Just bulldoze all the buildings into the river, into the East River, and we replant all the mangroves that used to grow there. Okay. Satan's ultimate deceptions unveiled. The foolishness, and that's OF, of man's wisdom on display. What are the older men teaching the younger men and the older women teaching the younger women? You know what an indictment that is on the church? You know most pastors are dancing around all of this stuff politically? They don't dare preach what I'm preaching because they'd clean their churches out. Shame on them. Shame on them. Most of them probably don't even see it or understand it yet. I think God, He showed it to me last year. We are teaching them from pre-K to adulthood the foolishness of man and the satanic lies of the evil one. And that's as bottom line as I can put it. Because that's what we're teaching our kids today in our public school systems. Critical race theory, save the planet, transgenderism, whatever you want to be whatever you want to be. I mean, the garbage that we are teaching our young people is absolutely disgraceful as a nation. And you and I are paying for it out of our taxes. I've owned real estate in this county for 50 years. You know how many kids I've put to school over the years paying taxes? And I even homeschool our girls for two of them for 5 years to get them out of the public school systems. And then I paid the rest of the time either Berean or King's Academy to send them to Christian schools. Because even back when my daughters were growing up, I felt the school systems were a joke. And they've only gotten progressively worse since. I wouldn't send a kid to the public schools. I'd bury him first. It's insane, the stuff they're being taught. And you and I are paying for it with our taxes. The NEA, the first thing ought to be shut down in America is the NEA. Shut that dang union down, the whole department, just shut it down. Do away with it. I wouldn't be a popular president. Okay? Because that's the biggest union in the country. It elects most politicians. Okay? Controls Alaska completely, the NEA. You study geopolitical stuff, you learn. Okay, here's the worst one of the bunch. And you all are already familiar with it, most of you, because I've been teaching on it, Laudato Si. This started in 2015 when the Pope went to a climate change conference down in Brazil. It was all about the Amazon jungle and the indigenous people up and down the Amazon that were starving to death and being run out because of logging and oil and all this kind of stuff, and how we're destroying the Amazon. And the Amazon's the lungs of the planet. And that all came out of Laudato Si in 2015. So there's your history on it. Okay? It's a whole program that the Pope has come up with. And the worst part is it is spiritualizing. It is spiritualizing saving the planet. It's making it a church issue that we've got to join in on. That's the worst part. Totally anti-biblical. He wrote 180-something pages on saving the planet and never once mentioned Jesus Christ. And he's the Pope. He's the Pope. Talks about the Creator. I guess that's maybe mentioning Jesus if he didn't define it, because that wouldn't be popular with the evolutionists. Even big business, I already proved it to you a couple weeks ago. Big business, David Christian talks about the creation, stuff being created. And I said, who's the creator here? Because he never mentions God in 13.7 billion years of the planet evolving from burned out stars. And he never mentions a God that's the creator. How's that work? How are things created if there's no God creating it? What's creating it? Chance? Flip the coin. I learned that in science. If you flip it enough, it's going to land on its side one of these days. Just keep flipping that coin. It's called law of probability. Been there. I believe that garbage. Dumb. Laudato Si, on care for our common home. That's his title. We all got to come together as believers and non-believers. Doesn't matter what religion you are, we all have to come together, kumbaya, to save the planet. Otherwise, we all die. And there's no earth for our kids and our grandkids. That's what he's teaching. It's sweeping Roman Catholicism right now. The dioceses all over America and Europe are bringing this to forefront. and teaching it in their diocese. Read about it. Study it. It'll blow you away. This is supposed to be God's man. This is the vicar, the Pope. He's running the largest religious denomination on the planet. You talk about an influencer? And he's come up with this Laudato Si to join he's joining the world organizations and the UN with these Laudato Si. He's trying to bring all the Catholics into the fold. Okay? And make it religion. Best I could determine, it was about 1.5 billion Catholics on the planet. That's a large percentage of our world population. Okay? And he's trying to sweep them in to save the planet with Laudato Si. That's what it's all about. You ought to get it and read it. It's fun reading. I read the whole thing. I ripped the first 100 and some pages to shreds, writing notes and stuff, and I finally got tired of doing it. So I quit making notes of it. I was just ripping it to shreds with Scripture. I was angry reading it. It's ridiculous. Satan's ultimate deception is that to think that we can save the planet. We didn't create it, and we can't save it. It's not our job. Okay? Mother, Sister Earth, that Pope calls it, is in our hands. If we don't get our act together, we're going to destroy it. And there won't be a planet for future generations. And that's what's being sold right now, worldwide, to Roman Catholics through the Pope. Okay? It's there. It's all out there. Programs in process. Kicked off in, October, I think, or September, October, they kicked it off in America and in Europe. What's the Bible say? Yeah, that's part of it, but I'm going to take you to a different direction. Okay? But yes, you're correct. First verse, by the way, right, Linda? That's the verse that ripped me to shreds. Yeah, that's the verse that, listen, that's the verse that ripped me to shreds the first night I opened the Bible, okay? And I figured I might as well start at the beginning, and then I didn't believe the first verse. That verse ripped me to shreds right out front. I don't believe this. We evolved from primordial slime. God didn't create anything. Gee, that was a long night. Revelation chapter 7, I told you we'd get here, right? Close to it. After these things, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. What do you mean by that? I thought wind just happens. Okay? What do you stay with me here a minute, okay? This is fun. I love the Bible. I just have a blast with it, okay? Holding the 4 winds of the earth, and the wind should not blow on the earth or the sea or on any tree. Now, I thought about that scientifically. You know how important wind is? And it's going to stop worldwide calm, no wind. That's what it's saying. No wind. Angels are going to stop it. The Bible says by Jesus Christ all things consist, right? If he wants to stop the wind, he can stop the wind. Amen. And he's got angels to do it for him. I don't have a problem with that. I guess. Stop storms, yeah. Stop all the hurricanes and tornadoes. It'll stop it all.
And with all the wind energy.
All the wind energy is going to... all them windmills ain't going to be worth a whole lot, okay? I thought of that. That whole sector of green energy is going to go away real quick. But get this now. Then I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was granted to harm the earth and the sea. So what's this stopping the wind going to do? It ain't going to be a good thing. But God's putting a stop on it here temporarily. Okay? And we got this angel with the seal in his hand, the seal of the living God. Do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees till we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads.
Amen.
And we're going to pick up on that next week.
That's it?
No,
No, right?
no, that's not it. I got a little more yet.
All right.
But
We can sleep.
we are not going to get to the 144,000 until next week.
All right.
Okay? I'm making the bottom line point tonight between this and what's going over in Glasgow, England right now. And what's going on in the education systems of America and Europe right now at the doctorate level and below. Okay? History, evolution, save the planet, climate change, environmentalism, eco-sin, Bope's come up with now. You're sinning if you don't join his Laudato Si, and eco-sin he's calling it, yes. It's a new sin. I didn't know we were sinning by not saving the planet, but now you're going to be involved in eco-sin if you don't join and sign up as a Catholic or Christians or whatever. If we don't get involved, it's sin. Guess what? They can come after you then. You can be real unpopular real quick. What I'm teaching tonight, they string me up for. Because I'm not going to join anything. I'm going to join the rapture when it happens. I'm out of here. Beyond that, I ain't joining nothing. They can string me up, do whatever they want. The absent bodies, present Lord, I win. Okay? That's me. Do we get the picture here? First, I asked myself, that scripture says, after these things. Now, one of the things you learn about Bible study, when you see a therefore or after these things, what do? You back up. You got to back up and you ask yourself, after what things? Well, that happens to be verse 6, chapter 6. Oops, I'm going the wrong direction here. Hold on. Well, no, just wait a minute. Jesus had shown the Apostle John the vision of the four horsemen of the apocalypse in Revelation 6, 1 through 10. So after John saw these things, then he sees the angels in the four winds. Okay? Now, what's apocalypse? What did he learn in chapter 6? Oh, we've been through it before. John's vision, stay with me, John's vision were not only distinct, they're not in any distinct chronological order. I've said this before. Carol knows this. When you study Revelation, it doesn't follow a nice timeline. And she mentioned earlier the parenthetical teachings and stuff. You've got that. Okay? And when John got these visions, first of all, the first thing you see is the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and that's a pattern for the entire tribulation period, is those four horses. It's a pattern for the entire 7-year period, laid out in those few verses, and those horses. We're going to look at them in a minute. Okay? Then he jumps forward, and he sees that the angel's getting ready to destroy the planet, but God says, wait a minute, until I seal my 144,000 witnesses, then we'll go at it. Because he needed witnesses during the tribulation period. Remember, the rapture takes place and we're gone. I believe this is a pre-tribulation rapture text, to be honest with you. Carol?
I have the word grace written in,
Old notes.
well, it's written in the side of my Bible.
Okay.
Right by verse 3.
Every time in the Bible, when you see turmoil, calamity, judgment, there's always grace.
Amen.
That's probably why she wrote that, because my setter, she's studied years ago. I've got it in my Bible too. Grace is a big deal. Okay. When you teach dispensationalism, you always talk about the judgment at the end of every dispensation, but there's always grace. God always redeems some and always restores some. It's always the remnant being saved. And that's grace. Okay? So, thank you, Carol. All right. Then John sees the vision of opening the first 4 seals of the Kinsman Redeemer Scroll. We talked about this several weeks ago when we talked about the Kinsman Redeemer Scroll, and we went down through the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Okay? That is the first 4 seals of the 7 seals on that scroll. And it's the title deed to the earth that's going to be foreclosed on by Christ. Okay? Kinsman Redeemer Scroll, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse were revealed. Then he saw the 5th seal open and saw Jesus consoling the martyrs in heaven. Remember, it puts the white robes on them. We talked about that as well. Then he observes the sixth seal open, and all hell breaks out on the earth. Okay? So that's the after these things. He saw that. Then chapter 7:1 starts. Okay? Now, what did he see? First horseman is the peace conqueror, Satan, his Antichrist, coming to conquer. Remember, came with the bow, no arrows, riding the white horse, right? Which is a sign of peace. Daniel chapter 9, first thing he does is sign a peace treaty with Israel for 7 years. That's where we get the 7-year tribulation period from, is Daniel chapter 9. So, okay. Second horseman takes the peace from the earth halfway through the tribulation period. In Daniel chapter 9, it says that Satan decides, sorry about the peace treaty, get out of my temple, I'm taking over. And he cancels the peace treaty. Remember, I pointed out that there's no truth in him. He's a liar. So when he signs a peace treaty, it ain't peace. Ain't going to happen, okay? Second horse takes peace from the earth and brings death and divisiveness worldwide. The third horseman brings famine, starvation, hardships, and death. The fourth horseman is death itself. Hades follows him. He slays a fourth of the earth's population and sends them all to hell. Jin. Okay, that's the fourth horseman. Okay? So yes, there's going to be a massive extermination of people at the beginning of the tribulation period. All right? After these things, then John sees a total worldwide hush of the winds, a dead calm, no stirring of the wind on land or at sea. Okay? I was in Chub Cay back in the probably 69 era, something like that. First time I was over there, to be honest with you, at blue marlin fishing. And I saw a complete calm for 3 days, okay, that we fished. And the ocean was dead slick. Fish break water, you could see it a mile away. Perfect, I mean, it looked like a sheet of glass. Just absolutely like that, slick. No waves. The only waves were boat wakes because there's no wind for 3 days. It was so hot, it's July, I'm on a 31 Bertram, and I'd go up on the bridge and I'd stand like this at troll speed, trying to get a little bit of breeze to cool myself off a little bit in the hot sun in that cockpit with no shade, and the sun beaming down and no wind, no breeze, nothing. And I'd go, oh, please help me here. It was hot, it was brutal. So I have some idea when God stops the wind, what it might be like, particularly if the sun's out and you're outside with no shade, okay? So John saw a hush of the winds going to happen, the calm before the storm of judgment, okay? Think of that. You're going to see later on in the Revelation, just before the Armageddon, there's going to be 30 minutes of silence in heaven. Okay? 30 minutes of silence before hell breaks loose. And Jesus comes back and destroys the sinners on the planet. Imagine a half an hour of silence, no more worship and praising God for half an hour.
That would be
Total get your attention. We'll be there, so I expect to be there when that happens.
That'll be the longest 30 minutes in history.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. But this is, there's no indication here how long this hush is going to be. But there's going to be a hush of the winds at the beginning of the tribulation period. Calm before the storm. John sees another angel holding the seal of the living God and cries out. Notice that these angels had the right to bring judgment on the earth. They held them off till we seal the 144,000. And we're going to pick up on that next week. Now, here's my closing question. Does this sound like kumbaya? Let's just come together and we can do it, save Mother Earth? You see any of that here? spiritualizing Satan's lies and showing forth mankind's hypocrisy at the same time. Note some quotes from Laudato Si. Now this gets a little twisted. Since everything is interrelated, concern for the protection of the nature is also incompatible, thank you, with the justification of abortion. How can we genuinely teach the importance of concern for other vulnerable beings, however troublesome or inconvenienced they may be, if we fail to protect the human embryo even when it's present and uncomfortable and creates difficulty? Now, here's the Pope defending the pro-life stance. Now, I don't know, I couldn't find a total on how many abortions have taken place in the last 30 years on the planet. I know in America it's somewhere around 65 million, okay? But that's a drop in the bucket compared to China and other places where they've had a one-child policy and all this kind of stuff, and we have no clue in any statistics, okay? There's probably been hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people, of children exterminated because of abortion. And he's defending it. Imagine if those abortions hadn't taken place, how many people would be on the planet? Talk about destroying it now with, what, 7.8 billion or something like that on the planet now? Imagine if we had another billion or two because of lack of abortion. So here's the Pope supporting pro-life, but on the other hand, they're over there talking about doing away with humans so we can save the planet. Which is it? We got a moral problem here, folks, one way or the other. I don't know what your morality is, but either way, you got a problem here with Laudato Si based on what's going on over there in Europe right now. Pope goes on, when we fail to acknowledge as part of reality the worth of a poor person, a human embryo, a person with disabilities, to offer just a few examples, it becomes difficult to hear the cry of nature itself. Everything is connected. So in other words, if you're not pro-life, you lose it all. You have no ability to save the planet. You know how many pro-abortion folks are over there flying their jets to Glasgow and making all these decisions for saving the planet, including our president? Catholic Church is even talking about excommunicating him because of his pro-abortion stance. He's the head of the party of pro-abortion. Okay? Ran on the platform. All Nancy Pelosi, the whole bunch of them are Catholics. And we're over there supporting abortion. There's their Pope. Here the Pope Francis is condemning abortion, but most of the Save the Earth progressives are all pro-abortion. How's that float? Is that just reading a little hypocrisy in your mind? Just a tad?
It's very hypocritical.
Okay?
Very.
The true humanists have been on the abortion and genocide bandwagon for decades. The communist Marxists have exterminated more political insurrectionists than all the wars of mankind in the 20th century. Abortion has exterminated hundreds of millions of young people worldwide in the past 45 years. Save the planet from all these evil people. Also, many of the Save Earth progressives are all pro-euthanasia and genocide to save the planet. Because all creatures are connected, each must be cherished. This is from Laudato Si again. Because all creatures are connected, each must be cherished with love and respect. For all of us, have living creatures, are dependent on one another. Really? I depend on him. I love you guys. I love you guys dearly. But I don't depend on any of you. My life's not dependent on you. Okay? It's dependent on him. Except we've been destroying the planet. I just had to throw that in. The bottom line is this. Pope Francis and all of his priestly colleagues can bloviate all they want, along with all of the strategies, plans, goals, and programs of the Earth's power, hungry politicians in Glasgow, England, and COP26 together with all the world influencers and the religious. None are in control of this earth or its climate. That's the bottom line, folks. It's all a bunch of lies of Satan. Don't buy into it. We're not destroying the planet. We can't destroy it if we want to. It's going to be here till God gets done with it. And then the Bible tells me when He's done with it, it's going to melt with fervent heat, and He's going to make a new heaven and a new earth. So when He gets done with it, there ain't nothing we're going to do to save it. And we don't need to save it for future generations, because there won't be any. Okay? That's as simple as it is. It's real simple. Just study the Bible. You get it. You get it. Saving the planet is Satan's big lie. All promoting it are deceived. All promoting it are deceived by Satan. I don't care how much money they got, how big their jet is, how fast it is. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care who they voted for. It doesn't matter. It's immaterial. They're deceived. They're buying into Satan's lies. So, don't make the pledge. Don't be deceived. It's Satan's lies. And it's coming. We can't stop it. We can't stop it. Really can't. The only issue is how quick it's going to get here and what the major effects are going to be economically and otherwise on us until Jesus comes in the rapture. That's my only concern. I want the rapture to happen real soon. Amen. Father, we thank you for time together tonight. Lord, it's kind of bottom line to me, you know. The lies of Satan have taken over the world so he can rule and reign. It's all about control. It's all about him being in power, dictator of the world, bringing about signs and wonders and miracles to the world. All these people involved in this whole cycle are going to just fall at his feet and worship him as a God, because he's going to have all the answers from a humanistic standpoint to solve all the problems. And it's all lies of Satan. There's no truth in him. And I pray we can understand that tonight. All this stuff going on around us is lies of Satan. I don't care whether it's a pope or who it is. It's lies of Satan. We got to get back to the scriptures. What does the Bible teach about the future of this planet? What is Jesus' purpose with this planet? What's his future here with this planet? Why are we here? All these are questions we have to ask ourselves. The scriptures have our answers. And I pray, God, that you keep us excited about the Word of God as we continue this study in the coming weeks and months. We look at Revelation in depth and parts of the Old Testament as well. I pray, God, that you would just open our hearts and minds and teach us from the Word of God and help us to stand strong in the face of the calamities that are coming. Maybe even financial ruin is coming. But God, you're on the throne. You're a provider. You're a protector. You're a rock. You're a mighty fortress. We're all the things that we have promised to us. And God, we're to stand strong. And I thank you for this church. I thank you for these people who are out listening to it. I pray for the people that are listening online that they too will get it. It's a bottom line issue. It's either Jesus or it's not. It's either Christ or it's a lie. And I pray, God, that'll drive us today and tonight and tomorrow. In Jesus' name. And all God's people said, amen. Thank you all for coming out.